Good morning, boys and girls. I guess it may not be morning for you right this moment, but it is for me. Today, we are going to dive back into our grace book for our next story. But before we get started, we have a little bit of word work that we want to do to make sure that we're familiar with the patterns that we're going to see in our story today. When we read our first story, I'm very excited to say that I got some great feedback, especially from some of my girls, about how much they enjoyed getting to watch the video and that it made them feel like they were back in class, and I love to hear that. If you love an activity that we do, please send me a message or have mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, uncle, whoever's doing work with you, shoot me a message because I love to hear what you like and that makes me want to do more of it. So if you really enjoy something, let me know and maybe we'll get to do it more. Okay, so we're going to look at this word first before we get started. And the first thing I want to do is I want to kind of do a sound circle. I want to look for letters that I know are going to work together. So the first thing I notice is I have O-I, and I know that O-I is going to say oi. I also notice that I have a C, and there's an E after that C. Boys and girls, what do we know happens when that C runs into that E? I'm hoping that you said that the C becomes soft and it makes its S sound. And this E doesn't make any noise. That E's only job is to make sure that our C train changes tracks. So we have V, oi, S, voice. So somewhere in our story today, we're going to run into the word voice. Let's move on down. Let me get everything situated so you can see. All right, our next word, we have R-I-N-S-E-D. And we're going to look and see. Hope you can see that all right. The first thing I notice is, what do we see at the end of this word? I notice E-D. So I think this word is probably going to be past tense. And I don't notice any other blends or digraphs, so I'm going to assume that everything works by itself. Rinsed. Rinsed makes me think of when you wash your hair and you rinse it out. So something is going to get rinsed in our story today. Now, this word, if I move off the screen, you can see it a little better, is a two-syllable word, boys and girls, and I know that because I see two vowels. And our rule before was if I have two vowels and two consonants, I'm going to divide that word down the middle. But that's not true here because I know that CK usually works together. So I don't want to divide them. So I'm going to try dividing after them. I also see that I have CH. So I have ch, ick, chick, and chicken. Chicken! Well, that seems very fitting because where does Grace live? Hopefully you said a farm. Grace lives on a farm. Last word we're going to look at right this second. Just like in rinsed, I noticed that this word has an ED. I also noticed that we have a C followed by an E, so I'm pretty sure it's going to be soft. So, ass, rast, rast. But that doesn't sound right. Maybe this was a sneaky E before our ED was added. Let's try that. Aced, raced, raced. So somebody's going to race in our story too. Okay, well, those are just a few things that I wanted to go over before we get started. Let's look at our story for today. I'm going to turn to my table of contents. Boys and girls, if you do not have your grace book, go grab it for me. You're also going to need your workbook. If you don't have it, go ahead and pause this for a second. Go grab your grace book, your workbook, and something to write with. All right, I'm assuming you've played me or you have everything you need. So we read Mr. Spencer and the Rabbits, which was on page 2. Today, we're going to read the picnic by the river. So, I'm going to turn to page 8. Go ahead and turn to page 8 with me. Oh, I turned to page 10. That's too far. There we go. So I've got the picnic by the river. Let's go over some words real quick before we get started that make sure you understand the vocabulary for our story. So, if we're going to read about the picnic by the river, we obviously need to know what a picnic is. So, a picnic, if you've never been on one, is a meal eaten outside. Most of the time we think of it sitting on the ground, but it doesn't have to be. You might eat at a picnic table. Right now, Miss Oots is sitting outside, and I'm sitting at a table, and yesterday, me, Gideon, and Mr. Oots had an evening snack outside, and you could have considered it a picnic. We ate by the pool. It was fun. Another word we're going to need in our story is the word brushed, like past tense for brush. If I brushed up against something, then I just kind of lightly touched it, normally as you're walking by. It's normally real quickly. If I brush up against you, I might kind of rub up against you real light while walking by, or if I brushed my hand across something, I just kind of moved it across it quickly. The other word you might need to know is another verb, and it's glanced. If I glanced at you, I looked quickly. So far, it sounds like lots of things are going to be done quick in this story, especially since we talked about the word raced as well. So, to make sure that you're getting everything you need from the story, and to let moms, dads, grandmas, uncles, anybody who's helping with school stuff, kind of hear what we do while we read our story, we're going to read The Picnic by the River together. Okay, we're going to read it together, and we're going to go over our questions and all of that together, boys and girls, so stay with me and listen carefully. Put your finger under the words and let's read together. So, last summer, the Spencers had a picnic by the river. Ooh, I can pause and think, because it told me something. Is this story happening right now? No, this is a story that already happened. It happened last summer. They had a picnic basket filled with food. It was stuffed with all sorts of good things. So before we read what all they ate, I want you to think. Close your eyes and picture it. If you were gonna fix yourself a picnic basket, what would you want to put in it? I can think of lots of good things that I would want. On a really hot day, I think I would want some cold fruit. Well, let's see what they ate. Let's see, chicken wings, ham, grapes, chips, and cupcakes. I think it's kind of funny because this is where we're seeing the word chicken. Is that what Miss Oots predicted? No, I thought the chicken was going to have to do with being on the farm. I mean, it might be a chicken they had on the farm, but that wasn't what I was expecting. So they ate chicken wings, ham, grapes, chips, and cupcakes. Mr. Spencer set the picnic basket down. Grace and Jill went for a swim in the river. How do Grace and Jill know each other? We learned about them in our last story. That's right, they're sisters. So if this is Grace and Jill, and this is Mr. Spencer, who do you think this is? My prediction would probably be that would be their mom, but I mean, I guess technically we don't know that for sure. Let's keep reading. After their swim, the children raced back to the spot where the picnic basket was. When they got there, there were ants marching down the side of their picnic basket. The ants were marching off with some of the food. How do you think that made them feel? Let me explain my pronoun choice. How do you think that made Grace and Jill feel? Now let's think of the other they. How do you think it made the ants feel? The Spencers had set their basket down next to the, ooh, this is a big word. Well, I see that this C is followed by an E, so it's probably going to say center of a big ant hill. The Spencers had set their basket down next to the center of a big ant hill. Yikes! Shouted Grace in a loud voice. Who asked those ants to this picnic? Mr. Spencer picked up the picnic basket and brushed off the ants. Much of the food was in plastic bags, so it was safe from the ants. Grace and Jill rinsed, we talked about that word beforehand. I don't think you can see me. Rinsed off the grapes after they brushed off the rest of the ants. In our picture, you can see the ants making their little line, running away with their picnic food. The Spencers sat down and ate their picnic lunch. This time, they sat far from the center of the anthill. I like the word anthill. It's one of those compound words. It's a hill for ants. After lunch, Mr. Spencer asked, "Should we pack up our stuff and get back to the farm?" "Not yet," said Grace, and glanced, remember that means to look quickly, glanced back at the anthill. She smiled and slipped some bits of cupcake and ham into her pocket. What do you think she's going to do with the cupcake and ham? Why would she need to put it in her pocket? Then she ran to the anthill. She set the bits of cupcake and ham on the ground next to the anthill. "There," she said. "That will be lunch for the ants. I think ants are cool when they are not crawling on our basket." Okay, that's the end of our story. Now remember, boys and girls, how many times do we read a story before we answer our questions? I hope you chose to say 3 because that's the rule we go by. Now, but before we finish reading our story, and I give you time to read it twice by yourself, what do we think we want to do? One of our strategies is reading our questions before we finish reading our story so that our brain can kind of register what we need to look for. So, let's look at our questions together. First thing we need to do when we tear our page out is we need to put our name. So that's what I'm going to do. Okay, number 1. What was in the picnic basket? Number 2. Where had the Spencers set down their picnic basket? Number 3. Why was the food in the picnic basket safe from the ants? Now I want you to think about number 3 for a second. The big question word in this sentence is why. I don't want to know if the picnic basket was safe. I want to know why. What made the food safe? And number 4, what did Grace do for the ants at the end? Okay, we're going to do this episode. We're going to do this story a little different. What I want you to do is I want you to pause your video and I want you to read your story how many more times? At least 2. At least 2 more times. Once you're happy and you're confident with your story and you're ready to answer your questions, I want you to play my video again, starting right here, because we're going to answer number 1 together. Because I want to go over and make sure that you remember how to restate the question and make sure that you have your capital letter, your period, make sure your page number's right. So pause it and come back to me when you're ready. Okay, if you've played the video again, that means that you've read the story 3 times at least, and you're ready to answer your questions. So we're going to visit number 1 together. What was in the picnic basket? What was in the picnic basket? So the first thing I need to do is I need to go back to my story. And I'm going to read, and when you hear what was in the picnic basket, I want you to yell stop. Last summer, the Spencers had a picnic by the river. They had a picnic basket filled with food. You probably said stop. That would be an answer. I could say the picnic basket was filled with food. But would that be my best answer? Let's keep reading and see what we can find out. It was stuffed with all sorts of good things. Chicken wings, ham, grapes, chips, and cupcakes. I think that second sentence probably gives me a better answer. That's more of a second grade answer. Now, if you wrote, the picnic basket was filled with food, am I going to mark it wrong? No. But is that the best answer you could possibly give me? No. Let's look at this one. It was stuffed with all sorts of good things. Chicken wings, ham, grapes, chips, and cupcakes. So I could use that exact sentence, but we can still make it better. I don't want to write it. That's one of our pronouns we've been learning about. What is it talking about? What was stuffed with all sorts of good food? Right, the picnic basket. So that's what I want to change that to. So what I'm going to do, I'm hoping I'm going to make it where you can see everything I'm doing. So the first thing I can do is I know I found my answer on page 8. So I can go ahead and write that. And I know that my answer is going to tell about the picnic basket. So I'm going to circle that. And that's how I'm going to start. The, capital T, picnic basket. Now, where can I find the rest of my answer? It's not in my question. It's in my story. So let's go back to our story again. All right. It was stuffed with all sorts of good things. Chicken wings, ham, grapes, chips, and cupcakes. The picnic basket was stuffed, right out of the story, with, and I can write with all sorts of good things and then write my food, but I'm going to choose to leave that middle part out. I'm just going to take pieces of my sentence. So the picnic basket was stuffed with chicken wings, ham, grapes, chips, and I ran out of room, so I'm going to put cupcakes right down below. And I'm still going to make sure I put a nice period at the end to end my sentence. So what was in the picnic basket? The picnic basket was stuffed with chicken wings, ham, grapes, chips, and cupcakes. Okay, boys and girls, are you starting to remember how we restate our sentence? How we go back and we use words both from our question and from our story? Make sure that your page number matches where you used or where you found your answer in the story and what you used to write your sentence. Okay, let's read our other questions one more time before you go do them. Where had the Spencers set down their picnic basket? Ooh, I see the word where. When I hear the word where, I know my answer is going to be what? It's going to be a place. Yeah. And we talked about why on this one. Why was the food in the picnic basket safe from the ants? That sentence is probably going to have because. The food was safe because what? What helped that food be safe? And number 4, what did Grace do for the ants at the end? Grace, what? What did Grace do? Make sure you include your page numbers. make sure that this paper, when you're finished, gets uploaded on Google Classroom or through Class Dojo. I'm going to give you feedback because we're going to do another one tomorrow, and you're going to have to do it all on your own. So I want to make sure that you're doing it great and that you don't need any feedback and help. Thank you, boys and girls, for all your hard work. I'm so proud of you, and I can't wait to be back together again.